And now, Boys Under the Hood with James Stevenson and Pat Kelly.
Hey! Raindrop, drop top, smoking, no cooking, the hot pot. Cooking, no your bitch, yeah, that.
Are you jealous of my dance moves?
I am. It's pretty slick.
It looked like I was having like a conniption over here. What?
No, looks good, man. Looks good.
You like that move?
Yeah.
Why are you smiling like that? Why are you laughing like that?
I'm just happy for you.
Thank you. Look, it's not every day that you can find a white boy with moves like me.
It's true.
You know what I'm saying? James Stevenson, Precision Auto Repair. What's going on, man? Welcome.
Tuesday morning, man.
Welcome
Close
back.
to Christmas.
How you doing, by the way?
Good. Good, yeah.
Do you have any more shopping to do?
No, I don't do any shopping. My wife does all that.
Oh, it's so great.
Yeah.
And it's just like the gifts are from mom and dad. And
Yeah,
Santa,
yeah. You know what? The thing is, because I'm terrible, I'll be out Sunday shopping for Monday.
Right.
And she at least plans. So she kind of does it throughout the year. So I don't really have to worry about it, which is nice. And then I just have to shop for her, which I haven't done yet, obviously.
Some people can do that. Like, I mean, it could be like May, and people will buy Christmas presents and leave them around for 5 months. I can't do that. I'd be so tempted to just give them to people. I can't do it.
She's pretty good at it. You know, she does it every year without fail. Otherwise, the kids would wake up with like, I don't know, I'd probably just give them their old toys that they didn't know they had or something.
That'd be funny, like your kids woke up and you have like oil change gift cards for them, a brand new alternator for them. And like, oh.
There's no expiration on this one. You're going to want to save it.
That is so great. Welcome to Boys Under the Hood. We're asking you to join in the conversation. James Stevenson from Precision Auto Repair. We're here to talk about cars, whether it's maintenance, repairs, if you're having any issues with your vehicles. You can submit your questions on James's Precision Auto Repair Facebook page, or you can log on to Lazer 99.3.com and submit your questions there. I had a friend of mine call me earlier today. He was in his car, so he couldn't text us, but he had a question to start things off.
Sure.
2002 Jeep Cherokee, that his name is Clutch.
Clutch. His name is Clutch.
By the way, that's his nickname.
Yeah.
That'd be the coolest real name in the world, though, right?
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
So 2002 Jeep Cherokee, Clutch says he can't get the airbag light to turn off. I guess the airbag light has popped on here recently, and he's tried to reset the dash with, turn the key, hit the odometer kind of thing, but it's not working. What do you think's going on?
When a light like that turns on, there's a computer for that system, right? So there'd be a computer for the you call it an airbag control module. Some people call it an airbag ECM, so electronic control module, an SRS module. It'd all be the same thing. That computer, when it turns on that light, it's going to store a sequence of numbers. That sequence of numbers is called a code. That code is going to direct him to kind of a troubled area in that system, and then it's up to a technician to diagnose it. Sometimes people will think that the computer is going to tell you everything that's wrong. You just plug it in, and the computer tells you what's wrong with it, and that'd be great if that was in fact the case. But it gives you a general idea. It says, hey, look, the problem's over here, or the problem's over there, and a real technician will figure it out. Just shutting off the light does nothing more than just shut off the light for a period of time, and sometimes the second you turn the car back on, or the Jeep back on, it would turn the light back on. So I can't really help him too much with this one unless he gets that thing scanned and gives us a little bit more information.
Is that an expensive fix to bring something in like that, to have a diagnostic like that?
Not necessarily. In most cases, with the airbag stuff, it's a bad wire, it's a bad connector, it's a bad sensor or something. Those systems aren't all that overly complex. Every once in a while, you could have a bad airbag, but it's not all that common unless there was some type of a collision or something. So no, it's probably not all that much money. It's probably a very simple fix, but without knowing, I don't know. I mean, somebody's probably yelling, "This guy's an idiot. He doesn't know what he's talking about. He's wrong." Probably not a big deal. Just have somebody scan it and then tell you. People tend to freak out when a light comes on, right? I'm sure you've had it happen.
Oh, when the check engine light comes
Yeah.
on? I'm like, what do you mean check the engine? The whole thing?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, so it's usually something, in most cases, it's something minor. The larger problems lie when you continue to drive the vehicle. So you have the light on and you shut it off. Your buddy shuts it off and you continue to drive it. And what happens is one problem becomes 2, becomes 3, becomes 4, and so on. And now you've got larger issues, right? You've got the subsequent damage. So you need to figure out what the initial failure was and then what that continued to break along the way. So it's definitely beneficial, and to have it looked at right when the light comes on. Shutting it off typically just masks the issue, creates a false sense of security, and then you continue to drive it and makes it much worse and much more expensive. So Clutch, you could just drop that off or swing by and we'll scan that for you. It'll probably take all of 4 or 5 minutes to scan it. We can tell you if it's something that's going to require any real diagnosis, or if it's something that we've seen before, and it's pretty easy to dial in what the bad part is.
You're listening to Boys Under the Hood. This is James Stevenson from Precision Auto Repair in West Springfield. We've got another question, but first, some Despacito chicken. And we're back.
It still hasn't gotten old yet.
Shelly from Springfield. Shelly from Springfield has an '04 Nissan Altima. She says, my car wouldn't start. My mechanic put in an alternator a few weeks back and won't answer the phone, so I had to tow it somewhere else. When they got it, they said the battery's so bad, so they jumped the car, found out that the starter was bad. Once they got it running, they called and tried to sell me an alternator saying that it's bad too. They also said that my mechanic never replaced the alternator. How do they know the alternator was bad too? What's going on here?
How did they not know the alternator was bad too? So, sometimes you run into situations with cars where you need to replace a part that you know is bad before you can go to the next part. So in this case, she's saying that the battery's bad and the starter's bad, the car's not starting. Well, if the battery tests bad, a lot of shops can try to use like a jump box. It's like an auxiliary battery. Other times, the battery may be too bad, and you could just use like a test battery, like a known good battery, and put that in the system. From there, like you've got to start in steps, say 1 through 10. If you encounter an issue at step 2, you need to repair that issue before you can go to step 3, step 4, and so on. And some of the steps, 3, 4, 5, 6 could all be ironed out very quickly just by being able to start the car, and then you kind of start from there, if that makes sense. In this case, if the battery was bad, they probably tested it, found it was bad, called you up, said you need a battery, and maybe they tested the starter and found that was bad too. But the reality here is that the alternator can't be tested until the car is running. So if they couldn't get the car running because you had a bad battery and a bad starter, then unfortunately it's just kind of one of those situations where you needed to replace those things before you get to that alternator. The alternator just depends on the vehicle running. There's something called a serpentine belt, and that runs that alternator. It allows the internals of it to spin. There's a little pulley on there, and when the car is running, the belt of the car will spin that. As it spins, it generates electric current and recharges the battery. The vehicle pretty much runs on that thing. So there's just no way to know that that's bad until the car's running. So
what about the guy that, so the second mechanic she brought up to said that the first guy didn't even put in a new alternator.
So it's no idea. Yeah, it doesn't seem like, just from what you're telling me, it doesn't seem like there's any reason that you shouldn't trust the other shop. All they can do is just report to you what they see and what they don't see. It looks like they saw that you had a bad battery and a bad starter. They wanted to start with that, and then after they got it running, you've got a bad alternator. Weird that all three may be bad, but you may have had one reoccurring issue for a while. I don't know. I could tell you that it seems a little weird that you paid somebody to do it, and then now he just completely ducks you and doesn't answer the phone. That would lend more credibility to the shop that you're at rather than the person that put it in, maybe in their backyard, or I have no idea. Sometimes, unfortunately, you get what you pay for. I know that, sometimes people can fall on hard times. There's, things that can happen. Everybody's got a budget, and your car doesn't care about what your budget is or what your outside circumstances are. It doesn't care that Christmas is in a couple days. Your car can break today without warning. I totally appreciate trying to save as much money as possible. The problem with that is, sometimes you don't, right? Sometimes you end up having to pay for the repair twice. You'd think that, a shop, like a licensed shop, will give you a price, say, on your alternator pad, and they'll say it's going to be, $300 to replace your alternator. Well, you've got a friend that can do it for a case of beer, and he'll call you when he gets out of work and hopefully put that thing in, and then 2-3 days later you get the car back and he only charged you $150, but now you've got some noises that weren't there before, and now you're calling him and he doesn't answer the phone. Would you rather just pay the $300 and just had it done right, and then if there was a problem you've got like a physical location that you can go to and say, hey, look, this thing's not working properly? Or would you rather continue to try to chase your buddy that already drank the beer and you've got no resolution there?
That scenario that you brought up is exactly how I live my life now, and it's taken several years to kind of learn that lesson.
By drinking a lot of beer?
Well, no, I learned that lesson probably earlier than I should have. But getting a friend to do a big job, I'm sure they go into it with great intentions and all, but like you said, when things go bad, that could ruin the friendship. I'd much rather pay somebody to do something than ask somebody to do something.
Yeah.
Because it's not always easy to find them once the job goes bad.
You know, I think it's, I don't know, not a psychologist or anything, but I think it's probably just human nature to want to help somebody.
Right.
Right. You want to help your friends, and like you said, you go into it with good intentions, and you know, if you don't have a shop, you don't have insurance, you don't have, you know, the electric bills, you don't have all the expenses that go into owning like a physical brick and mortar shop, right? So obviously you can do the job cheaper than a shop, but the problem is that maybe you just don't fully have the capability of doing that, and you know, even though you went into it with good intention, all of a sudden you're into it and you're stuck, right? Because you're so far into it that the car's apart, it's disabled, and then you kind of do whatever you can to get it back together. We've seen that happen with people a few times. You know, they'll end up towing a car in, or you know, in pieces. You get like 4 or 5 boxes of stuff, a bunch of baggies just filled with parts and nuts and bolts, and they ask you to put it back together for them because they got in over their head. It stinks, you know what I mean? You tried, like you said, you know, you went into it with good intentions, but unfortunately that stuff happens. Me personally, if I need, you know, a roof on my house, then I'm calling a contractor.
Yeah, you're not going on YouTube
Yeah.
to figure out the
No,
best way
I'm
to
not.
put a roof
I'm
on
not
your
getting out
house.
there. Yeah, I'm gonna
No,
call
on your day off?
3 of my buddies and say, hey, let's all piece this together.
I got
Who-
pizza and beer, man.
Yeah. Who do we know that, you know, can get us a dumpster? Who do we know that's got an extra hammer? All that stuff. We're gonna waste a bunch of time. I'm gonna put holes in the roof,
Right.
and it's gonna end up costing me a lot more in the long run. I tried to put a door in our house one time, you know, and that's what I did. I went on YouTube and I was like, yeah, I'm gonna put this door.
Oh,
in.
piece
I-
of cake.
I
It
know
looks
how to
so
put the
easy.
door in.
You just put the shims and
This
everything.
door was so crooked. You wouldn't. I could fix it.
Looked
I
like
could
a
fix
Dr.
cars like you
Seuss
wouldn't
door.
believe. This door was so crooked, twisted, and everything else. It wouldn't close. I couldn't figure it out. I had a buddy come over. 15 minutes later, he had the trim all everything was perfect. It's just because that's what he does all day long, you know. So there was something to be said. I wasted a whole day. He did it in about 15 minutes.
Right.
It was incredible.
Spend the money on someone who knows what they're doing.
Spend the money.
Okay, we've got another question here, but that might be the greatest song of all time. And we're back. Boys Under the Hood. Melanie from Longmeadow has a 2008 Beamer 335. Nice car. Melanie writes, I have a bit of an oil leak. It's been at the mechanic, and they're saying it needs a main rear seal to stop oil from dripping on my driveway so my husband can stop complaining. I don't know why that gets me, too, because we have a couple of vehicles that pull in and out of our house that will leave a spot. And
Yeah.
it's not even that big a thing. I mean, until I look at it, and I'm like, oh my God, there's an oil spot in our driveway. Make sure you get that fixed. Why is that? I mean, why is that? So anyway, she says the problem here is that they also said I need an entire cover for the valves because of some kind of vent in it, and it made the first thing leak. She's clueless and she feels like an idiot. Why? I don't know why she would feel like an idiot.
Yeah, I mean, you shouldn't feel like an idiot. You just, you know, you're not a mechanic, right? So, we'll help to give you some peace of mind here. What it sounds like is that you have an issue with something called a PCV valve, right? That's positive crankcase ventilation. The easiest way to explain what that thing does is as you drive the vehicle, it heats up, the engine oil heats up, becomes a little bit of vapor pressure inside there. It's a little bit more complex than that, but that's basically it, right? So as that pressure builds up, it'll create leaks, so it needs to get vented out. And again, this is just kind of a dumbed down version of how this system works. So it uses this PCV system to recycle this air and vent it back out so that it doesn't create pressure inside the engine, unnecessary pressure, and blow things up. On this car particularly, there tends to be a problem with this, what's called PCV valve. And in this case, the only way to replace that PCV valve is inside the valve cover. So they may just be requesting to replace that entire valve cover because they want to replace the PCV valve and there's no other way that it's serviced. I've seen some guys take them apart and then clean them and try to replace, like there's these little rubber pieces in there called diaphragms or the springs or whatever may fail in there. We've never done that. It all is sealed. So to try to open it up, you have to basically break the cover and then kind of like glue it all back together.
Get a new gasket
Yeah.
on there after you've opened it
Some
up.
people
like
have had success doing that. It just doesn't, like, that's an internal engine part, and then if something were to fail with that, we're creating a bigger problem, so we would just replace the valve cover too. So it doesn't sound like they're doing anything wrong there, that rear main seal, unfortunately, is kind of a common point of failure when the when that PCV valve goes bad. I think we saw one recently with a very similar concern, and it was a very similar repair. It's not uncommon. There's really no red flags there, but yeah, that's called a PCV valve, and then the rear main seal. It's just the seal is going to be more of a nightmare than the than the valve cover, because the valve cover is right on the top of the engine, all right, and it's got that valve in it, and then the rear main seal, you'd have to remove the transmission from the vehicle, because that's the seal on like the very back side of the engine between the engine and transmission. So you're looking at a larger job, especially on that vehicle. I would say you're probably looking at all of 7-8 hours or something like that to do that, plus maybe a little bit of time for that valve cover. Like, it's a big job. So hopefully your husband's happy if you stop dripping oil all over the place, so he can stop complaining.
Well, it's all
make him pay for it.
It's all her fault that the oil's dripping out.
Yeah.
Damn it! There's oil in the driveway again. Okay, we got another question. Can we take a quick break here before we come back?
Yeah, we can.
We'll take a quick break. We'll be back with more Boys Under the Hood. James Stevenson from Precision Auto Repair in West Springfield. James Stevenson from Precision Auto Repair in West Springfield. Welcome to Boys Under the Hood. What's going on, man? You having a good time so far there?
That's it. Yeah. Blowing things up.
We are fielding your car questions. You can submit them at Lazer99.3.com, or you can also submit them on James's Precision Auto Repair Facebook page. You have a Facebook question you want to do right now? Do you have that in front of you?
Yeah, it looks like somebody just sent one over now.
As we're talking.
Yep.
I love that.
Looks like girl's name is Kalina from Westfield, and she's got a 14 Nissan Sentra. It says, when do I have to get this bad girl tuned up? Is that even a thing?
What, a bad girl car or a tune-up?
I guess, yeah, I don't know. I mean, a bad girl would be her car, right?
Yeah, I guess.
Call your truck a bad boy?
Yeah, right. I don't have the truck nuts, though. Do you have the truck nuts?
No.
What? How does that occur to someone? So they're in an auto parts store, and they're like, oh man, I got to get some air fresheners.
Yeah.
So there's the rack. And right next to them is the truck nuts, and all sorts of different races, by the way. You can get black truck nuts. You can get white truck nuts. Help me to understand how that thought process works, James.
I don't have any. I don't know. It's usually like a 5'2", 100-pound guy that's driving that.
What are you making fun of me right now?
Do you have truck nuts?
No,
do you have the purple one?
I don't, because I'm 5'2". Purple truck nuts.
I saw purple ones one time.
I've been single for 5 years. I've got blue truck nuts.
Oh, jeez.
Okay. So the tune-ups. What do you think?
Last week was the first week that I realized that you're allowed to say balls on the radio.
Yep.
And I got home, my wife was laughing at me. She's like, you can say balls on the radio? I'm like, I'm going to see how many times I can say balls.
You just said it again.
Was that 3 or 4?
But the truck nuts does not count as balls, though.
That's not balls.
No.
All right. I'm not going to put balls on my trailer hitch. I just think that's
unusual. Who does that? What do girls get like car boobs for the front of their cars? How does that go?
I don't feel like what if you had a truck like that and you had those nuts hanging from the back of your truck, right? And you pull up and you want to date one of my daughters, and you got these balls hanging from the back of your truck.
How do you think that's going?
That guy's leaving alone.
Yeah.
That guy's leaving alone.
And
I'm telling you that right now.
And if he keeps it up, he's leaving alone and hurt.
I just don't see how. I don't know. Somebody's probably like, I love my truck nuts.
Hey man,
I love these things.
I got a great gift for you for Christmas, man. Here's some truck nuts for your car.
If you like them, great. It's your truck. Yeah.
Okay, so. Okay, so when do I have to get this bad girl tuned up? Is that even such a thing?
Yeah, it's a 14 Nissan Sentra. The Nissan recommends a 5,000 mile service interval on that. So one of the things that kind of went away is the conventional tune-up, right? So years ago, a vehicle needed to be tuned up regularly, just still based on mileage, but once a year, once every other year, there were spark plugs and these things called points and condensers and cap and rotor and all that good stuff, and you had to replace that stuff fairly frequently. As vehicles have evolved since the 70s and early 80s, they've done away with a lot of that yearly, big expensive maintenance like that, all right? So this vehicle is mostly just going to be a lot of oil changes, some fluid changes, things like that, but they're going to be at 5,000 mile intervals. The larger services are going to be, say, at every 20,000 miles, you're going to have to replace some filters and replace your brake fluid. I know people think that sounds crazy to replace brake fluid, but brake fluid is just like any other fluid in your vehicle. It begins to wear out. It doesn't lubricate and protect anymore, and you need to replace it. So most manufacturers will recommend replacing that about every 20,000 miles. Another thing that happens with brake fluid, it kind of acts like a sponge, so it absorbs moisture. When it does that, it doesn't protect the internals of the brake system anymore. Not anymore, but just as well. And it begins to get dirty because the seals and things inside the system are starting to break down and wear down, and that's what's causing that fluid to get dirty. So, dark brake fluid is obviously an indication that maybe it needs to be flushed, but also the fluid could look fine and it still may need it.
Is this supposed to be red? What's the color?
It should be.
Why are you laughing at me right now?
No, that's not. That's a good question. No. The red fluid will be like transmission fluid,
Okay.
Sometimes power steering fluid.
So you shouldn't put transmission fluid in your brake fluid?
You cannot.
Okay.
No, you
All
cannot. Brake fluid will be like a. Sometimes it's clear, maybe like a light tint of yellow, slightly, but it should be mostly clear fluid.
Ooh.
Not really. Yeah, if you put that in your brake system, you got if you put the red stuff in there, you got problems.
My brake fluid's black. I know
Yeah.
it is because I look at it. I check my stuff
You
out.
gotta flush
as
it
well.
out.
Okay.
Yeah, you gotta flush it out. Kalina, the other thing is that about 105,000 miles is gonna be when your first major service is gonna be. I mean, you're gonna have one at about 60,000. That'll be some filters and some fluids and stuff like that. But 105, you're gonna replace your spark plugs. You're gonna replace your coolant, some filters, and your oil change. But that's a great car. They're very low on maintenance. It's gonna be a low cost of ownership. I believe that was in a list we were talking about maybe a week or two ago about overall cost of ownership. Nissan is very close to the bottom of the list. So you've made a good purchase there. You don't really have to get that bad girl tuned up a lot. Just regular maintenance, and they're going to check your brakes, and they'll check your suspension, and they'll check all that good stuff when they're doing that, just to make sure that you're safe and nothing's wearing out on you. But other than that, you shouldn't really expect anything major for till you've got upper mileage close to about 100,000. So good purchase there, Kalina. Great question.
Do we have time for another question?
I have time for one more.
We'll be right back after
All right.
this. And we're back. Welcome back to Boys Under the Hood. James Stevenson from Precision Auto Repair in West Springfield. We're talking cars. Anne Marie of Ludlow. Nice car, 2001 Mercedes E320. She says that her car runs great. There's no issues. It's in perfect condition. But it's not a 4MATIC, and I live on a hill. I feel like I should get something 4-wheel drive, but I like my car. I've had it since new. I like the smaller Volkswagen SUV. Any thoughts on what I should do? But before I answer this, my neighbor that lives across the street from us parks on the side street because she has a hill going down into her, her garage is kind of lower than ground level. So I just found out that she's parking all winter right in my clear view, which I'm really delighted about. But
So
it sounds like Anne Marie's got the same kind of problem.
So she just parks in the street and then finds her way out, so she's not on the hill.
Yeah, pretty much.
Wouldn't the plows kind of plow her in?
Well, I'm interested to see what happens when that happens. I don't know. She's gonna have to move it at some point, right?
I would think so. I would just think the plows would plow her in. Like that would almost be some, worse in a way, right? Because then you've got that big mound of snow you have to
Right.
shovel or somehow try to drive over.
You ever park on the street in Boston? You know what that's like. You walk up, you can't even see
Yeah.
your car under that.
Yeah, I've done that one time, unfortunately. All right, so first, 4MATIC is Mercedes' way of calling the car all-wheel drive. So it's not four-wheel drive, but all-wheel drive car. It's all personal preference, right? If you want an all-wheel drive vehicle and you want to spend the money and go purchase something new, then that's great. I was reading something recently too, and it was saying that in New England we only have about 10 uncommutable days, right, every year, and that's based on averages. So some years obviously less, some years maybe a little bit more. Somebody's probably like, he doesn't know there was 11 last year. Great, well,
Yeah.
there was 11.
And there's probably 9 the year before.
On average,
so
yeah, whatever. So there's roughly 10 uncommutable days every single year, and you got 355 other days of the year where you can drive your car. So if you can make arrangements on those days, I don't know what you do for work or whatever. I personally like being able to get wherever I have to go whenever I want to go there. So I like four-wheel drive. My wife has four-wheel drive. It's just, that works for us. I believe the vehicle you're talking about is the Volkswagen Tiguan. It's not a bad vehicle. 18, they just came out, so 2018, they're just coming out with a a new body, right? So it's like a new model for that. It's great on gas. I guess I haven't serviced any of them yet. I haven't really seen many of them yet, but just reading about them, I guess they're really great on gas. They've got a really good warranty, so it's 6 years, 70 or 72,000 miles or something like that, which is a great warranty. But do your research, drive it, see what you think. One of the articles that I was reading was Car and Driver. They said that it looks great, the interior looks nice, but if you want like the fancier interior, you've got to really pony up some more cash. And then the engine, although it's really good on gas, the person that wrote the article said that they thought that it was underpowered. So he may be used to driving Corvettes all the time, and a Volkswagen Tiguan may be underpowered for him, but it may be just perfect for you. So while you can use those articles and those reviews and things as a guideline, maybe it's best just to go into a local Volkswagen dealership. And I know there's like 3, one in Enfield, West Springfield, and Northampton.
Right.
I believe Northampton probably want to go to, right, because they advertise on this station a lot.
I appreciate
right?
that. Thank you. Thanks for that.
So go up to Northampton, drive one of those, and then see what you think, because what I may think is powerful, you may think is not, and vice versa. So take a look at them, drive them. I don't think anybody ever has a problem with you driving a new vehicle before you purchase it, and if they do, you probably should just change dealerships.
Well, when people start talking about power too, I mean, not everyone is hauling a boat.
Yeah,
Exactly. So I mean, if you're just driving the vehicle, do you need the most powerful 4-wheel drive truck out there? Probably not, right?
No. So, like I drive a big truck, but without, like, I don't have the balls hanging from the thing or anything.
And just so you know, we're not trying to change any of the buying of truck nuts around this. If you want to buy truck nuts for someone you love, have at it. We're not trying to affect the sales of truck nuts.
Who makes those things? Because maybe you could get them on as a sponsor, and we'll start talking about how great truck nuts are.
I'd love to talk about the guy. I mean, they had to be sitting around one day, drinking probably, I'm guessing, really bad beer. Hey man, I got a good idea. Truck nuts.
We've gone off the rails.
I'm sorry.
But just go drive it. The Car and Driver, that's just that's somebody else's opinion. So use it as a guideline if you want. But drive one, see what you think. If the only flaw there in their whole thing was just interior trim, maybe you love the trim package of the base model. Maybe you're not into a lot of frills or something. I don't know. And then the other thing is just maybe it's got plenty of power for you. But like Pat said, if you're towing, hauling, see what the vehicle's rated for. I can't assume with a 4-cylinder engine that it's rated all that high, but maybe you're just towing a little canoe or something, or just like a little utility trailer. Maybe that's perfect. Maybe you don't tow anything at all, but maybe a perfect vehicle for you. When in doubt, just go and drive one, kick tires, take a look, see what you think. But yeah, Northampton Volkswagen, right?
Yeah.
There you go. There it is.
Thanks for that. It's great hanging out with you, man.
Thanks, man.
I have a lot of fun here, especially when we can sneak the Despacito. Is it even Despacito? Am I even saying that right?
I have no idea.
Despacito.
I can ask my 6-year-old. She probably knows the words.
Did you just liken me to a 6-year-old right there?
No, but I mean, like, these kids, they just know like every word to these songs. I got screamed at in the car the other day for changing some like Taylor Swift song. It was incredible.
I don't even know. So as long as you weren't singing to Taylor Swift, I'm fine.
I'm not gonna say I don't like Tay Tay.
Okay.
I'm just saying.
Okay. If you say Tay Tay one more time, you're not allowed in here again. James, it's I always look forward to hanging out with you on Tuesdays, and I want to mention to people again, you can submit your car care questions at the Precision Auto Repair Facebook page. They can also private message you if they don't feel comfortable just splashing it out there. I know how some people on Facebook.
We get a ton of private messages on the company Facebook page. I think we get more private messages, and most of these questions actually come from Facebook as opposed to the website. I mean, not that we don't get a ton on the website too, but just as we've been progressing, it's like month 3 or something of doing this, we have a year's worth of questions stockpiled. So if we don't get to your question, it doesn't mean that we're ignoring you. It's just we try to take first come, first serve, so to speak. But Pat, I thank you for having us on the show, or having me on the show today, and I want to wish everybody listening a very Merry Christmas. Have a safe holiday. Drive safely. Be safe. Don't drink too much. Don't overspend on your presents. And Pat, thanks for having me. Merry Christmas, bud.
Looking forward to hanging out with you after the big day, James. James Stevenson from Precision Auto Repair in West Springfield. Check him out.